let's relive that moment one more time. Don't mess it up. Just say the name of the... Parasite just won Best Picture. My dog buddy was so confused, and my wife, she woke up this morning and said, "Congratulations to Parasite." And I said, "How'd you know Parasite won? You were asleep the entire night." And she said, "I heard every word." She was so mad. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. As you can see, we've not moved. I'm in the same spot on the same couch as I was last night during my reactions video, and this is just kind of a follow-up. Today we're going to talk about basically what in the world happened last night, how many Oscars did each movie go home with, and what was the biggest surprise? What was the biggest snub? But for the most part, the Oscars went about how we expected, except for a few major, but a few big awards. Of course, if you guys enjoy these kinds of videos, be sure to let me know in the comments down below and smash that thumbs up button. I love talking awards, and I know awards season is kind of over at this point, but if there's anything else you guys would like me to cover, talk about, whether it's the Oscars or other award ceremonies, let me know that. I love doing it. I'm hoping to make it more of a focus on this channel in the future, but let's get right into it. So, which movie or movies won the most Oscars last night? That is Parasite. Parasite came in with 4 wins, followed by 1917 with 3 wins, Ford v Ferrari, 2 Oscars, Joker, 2 Oscars, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 2. And those are the only films with multiple Oscars. Every other movie from Bombshell to Jojo Rabbit to Judy to Toy Story 4 to Marriage Story won 1 apiece, which is about what we expected, right? My big surprise looking at these numbers is the fact that Parasite, 1, had more wins than everyone else, because I know going into the night, everyone was expecting 1917 to rack up the awards, and I wouldn't have been opposed. I'm a massive fan of that film. Obviously, it's my favorite movie of last year. The fact that Parasite comes in with these particular wins, and not just a few technical categories, and that's it. No, we got Best Picture, we got Best Director, Screenplay. I mean, Parasite was winning the big awards last night. And a few of those were basically a shoo-in for some. Sam Mendes, Best Director. A lot of people were saying 1917, Best Picture, and that's honestly where I thought it would go, and that's why I was so excited last night when Parasite won, because I always find myself, whether it's sports or movies, like I'm a big sports guy, so I'm always paying attention to the underdogs. I have my teams I'm rooting for, but I love a good underdog story. And you see a movie like Klaus come in and have a shot last night. Did not take it over Toy Story 4, but it did have a good shot. That's kind of why I was rooting for Klaus, even though those movies are almost the exact same for me in terms of how much I love them. Same goes with Parasite and 1917, 2 of my top 5 favorite films of the entire year. And even though I slightly prefer 1917, I do acknowledge that Parasite, in my opinion, is the better made film. I mean, it's a hard thing to distinguish your favorite movie and what you believe to be the best movie. This year, I somehow managed to do that, and I finally feel like I'm getting this right in my head. It's like, oh, what makes this the best? What makes this my favorite? But that, for me, was 1917 Parasite. So either one that would have won would have made me happy. But the only way y'all were getting that response from me was if Parasite ended up taking Best Picture, because it was, to a lot of people, maybe not to some predicted it, but even if you predicted Parasite to win, weren't you going more with your gut as opposed to what the signs were? Because it's very obvious that the signs were saying 1917. So I love a good underdog story, and it was really cool to see Parasite take home that award. Now, for the most part, and I've never seen this before, guys, film Twitter is pretty happy. I mean, there are a couple people here and there. I saw a video this morning that's going around, and somebody's really upset that Parasite won, and you know, but for the most part, film Twitter's happy, which means Austin's happy because peace and happiness. Now, let's get into this. Was there anything last night that upset me in any kind of crazy way? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I mean, there were a few that I was rooting for, and some that I knew had no chance, right? I wanted ScarJo to win for Marriage Story. I knew that wasn't going to happen. It didn't happen. I wanted a couple of the technical awards to go to different films. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Avengers Endgame, even though I predicted 1917. And in my heart, I'm like, could Avengers Endgame take it. But no, that went how it was supposed to be. And that's how the Oscars was for the most part last night. They went how they were supposed to be. The 4 acting awards. Let's talk about that real quick. I mean, we all knew that Renee Zellweger was going to take it for Judy. She's been winning and winning and winning. The BAFTA secured it. The Independent Spirit Award was just another nail in the coffin, and she was great in Judy. Once again, I was more of a fan of Scarlett Johansson, but I knew she didn't have a chance. But it was nice to see her win. Laura Dern for Marriage Story. It's hard to put a finger on which performance in Marriage Story from the supporting cast is my favorite. You could have nominated pretty much anyone, from the mother to the sister to the divorce lawyer, and it just ended up being Laura Dern, and everyone loves Laura Dern in Hollywood. I mean, we saw a song about her recently in one of the award shows. They were singing Laura Dern, so we knew that would happen. Joaquin Phoenix, I mean, to me, the most obvious acting award of the night. Joker took home 2 Oscars, like I said, 1 for Best Score, and it's great because you talk best, you talk favorite. I think that score is both. It's one of my absolute favorites of the year. It's one that resonated and stuck with me. But Joaquin was a shoo-in, and I mentioned this last night in my reactions video. It's just so cool because I'm such a big fan of the character of the Joker. Right, out of all of the comics that I grew up reading, the stories revolving around both he and Batman, but really him, resonated with me the most because I was fascinated with, one, the love-hate relationship between he and Batman, and I know this movie didn't have Batman in it. Sort of. It kind of did. But 2, just how complex the character is. And the fact that we've been seeing that play out on screen multiple times in multiple different movies, whether you look at a Jack Nicholson, whether you look at a Heath Ledger, and now Joaquin Phoenix, well, now we have 2 Oscars, and I saw someone tweet this morning. I can't remember who the name was, but it said, Oscars, Batman, 0, Joker, 2. And then I had a gif of the Joker, and I'm like, dang, Joker has 2 Oscars. Well, just let that sink in. Let that resonate. I mean, that is awesome. And no hatred towards any of the other nominees, man. I'm a huge fan of what Adam Driver did. Just rewatched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Leo killed it. But for me, Joaquin was a lock this year, as was Brad Pitt, back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I loved what he said in his speech. He's like, riding on the coattails of Leonardo DiCaprio. And I don't think that's true. I think Brad Pitt did a great job in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But it's interesting to see him take it and Leo not take it, when I think Leo actually gave the better performance. But it's hard in the same year that Adam Driver did what he did in Marriage Story, in the same year that Joaquin did what he did in Joker. That's what we always say about the Oscars, is you have to give the best performance of your career, or one of, in terms of what Leo consistently does, but it also has to be the best performance of the year from anyone, which means it has to be your best performance, and even better than 10, 20, 30 other people's best performance. That's why it's so hard to win an Oscar for being an actor in Hollywood. It's very tough. It's difficult. In terms of the technical awards last night, no major shockers, honestly, but here's what I'll say. I anticipated way back when I did my first predictions video, I anticipated sound mixing to go to 1, sound editing to go to the other, Ford v Ferrari 1917. But I actually had it switched. And I gave some reasons why in that video, so you can go back and check it out if you want. But I was shocked that 1917 won sound mixing, and I was shocked that Ford v Ferrari won sound editing, when I thought it would go the other way, just because of what the categories represent. Now, I'm not upset, because I'm glad both of those movies were represented. And have we talked about the fact that Ford v Ferrari won 2 Oscars when I predicted it to go home with 0 in my most recent predictions video? That's great. I love the movie. I think it deserves it, especially when you look at the technical categories. It's a fantastic film, and Best Editing is another one that just, you look at what was nominated, and of course my choice was Parasite. But Parasite, you won enough. Let this one go to Ford v Ferrari. Great to see that. 1917, let's talk about that real quick. The front runner for basically racking up the most awards, the front runner for Best Director, for Best Picture, all of these things. And I know a lot of people are upset, and obviously people are so happy that Parasite won Best Picture. But for those that loved 1917, let me tell you this. Still won 3 Oscars, the second most of any movie this year. Sam Mendes still won multiple awards and other award shows for Best Director. And 1917 won the BAFTA. I mean, it won consistently within the last couple of months. So nothing to scoff at. I mean, the movie did well. I'm going to see it again actually tonight with my wife. She hasn't seen it yet. I love it. I think it's fantastic. Not everyone loves it. And then those on the opposite side saying, well, 1917, boo, you well-deserved. It still got 3 Oscars. It still got the second most Oscars of any movie. The only movie that can say, well, I beat 1917 was indeed Parasite. So all of the films that won multiple awards, it's a very difficult thing to do. And heck, even Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Brad Pitt, production design, no huge surprises there. And then, of course, I just want to point out the fact that it was cool to see people on stage that I love. I never imagined them being on stage accepting an Oscar, but it's just nice to see it. It's nice to see a guy like Taika Waititi up there, and you could tell he was emotional. You could tell he was happy. I'm a fan of Joaquin Phoenix as an actor. I think he's brilliant, so it was awesome to see him holding up that award. And then, obviously, Bong Joon-ho. Bong Joon-ho, you can just see it in his eyes when he's on stage, whether it's him staring at his Oscar like it's his child or saying he's going to go party afterwards, which I thought was hilarious. I mean, so many things that makes you want to love the guy and root for the guy, and I can't wait to see what he does next. I've never been like a Bong Joon-ho fanatic, right? But more recently, I've been going back, revisiting some of his films. I think Snowpiercer is great, and now Parasite. I mean, obviously one of the best movies, in my opinion, of this decade, and the last decade, because it was 2019, but a lot of really good things to come in his career. I have a great feeling. And then last night, history was made, the first international feature to win Best Picture, and that's why a lot of people were saying it had no chance, because it's never happened before. But what I said in my video last night, and I'll say it again, I mean, obviously history repeats itself for the most part, but there always has to be a first something. Right, something always has to set a new trend, to break the mold, and this isn't me saying, well, international feature films are going to win every year from here on out. No, but now there's a first. Parasite is the first, and that's one of the reasons why I was so hesitant to say it was going to take home the award, is because it's just never happened before. We see it all the time in sports. It's something happens for the first time, and people are like, oh my God, nobody expected that. It's true. No one expected it, because it's never happened. But now it's happened, and I think this is the movie that it should have happened to, because I truly believe Parasite is one of the best international films I've ever seen. Just the way that it's constructed, edited, and even if you're not the biggest fan of it, I've seen people who aren't the biggest fan of it. They're still on Twitter, and this is rare, but they're saying, yeah, good for Parasite. Good for Parasite. It's a good movie. It's unlike anything I've ever seen, and that's what I'm hearing a lot of people saying and seeing a lot of people saying about the film. So it's cool that it was the first in history to do that. And in terms of snubs, you know, I know some will say Avengers for visual effects. Some are going to say Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 1917 for Best Picture. Some will say Sam Mendes for Best Director. He was one of my personal favorite directors of the year. But there was not a major snub last night for me. There was nothing that happened that tends to happen every year at the Oscars where I sat back, scratched my head, and said, okay. I was rooting for Klaus because it was the underdog. Toy Story 4 won. I wasn't shocked. I loved Toy Story 4. I was rooting for 1917 and Parasite. Parasite won. I was a little shocked. I was a little shocked and excited. And I had some people point that out in my comments. They're like, Austin's saying he's not going to get shocked, and then he freaks out. Listen, I love this kind of stuff. I love competition. I love awards. Like I always say, I'm a big sports guy. So when you bring that into the movie space and you get to predict and you get to sit there and wait for a winner, that is the most amped I am ever. Like, that's the most energy I ever had. So I was really excited to see that happen, but I'm sitting here trying to think of some major, and I just can't think. The screenplays, exactly what I thought would happen. The documentary, exactly who I thought it would go to, and I haven't even seen American Factory. I mean, there was just no major surprises last night for me. No major shocking, anger-inducing surprises. Some positive surprises, absolutely. And then in terms of the actual ceremony itself, I mean, it was fine. You know, it was fine. There were some really funny moments. I actually cracked up when they were messing with the microphone from Cats. I don't like cats, but that was funny. And it was less creepy than the actual movie. There were some great moments with some of the guys who came in. I thought Chris Rock and those guys were great together, even though there were some pauses, and I'm just like, uncomfortable. The first song I thought was fine, but there were some things about it that I also felt was a little bit awkward, but overall, I'm not worried as much about the ceremony itself as long as it isn't boring or horrible. It's fine, right? I'm more worried about the awards. Maybe we can start moving this a little bit quicker because 3 hours. That's one of the reasons why I didn't do an actual live stream last night, and I edited as I go. People were asking, Austin, how'd you get this video out so fast? Because I would record during a commercial or during a song. I would go over there, edit a little bit, have everything ready, put the next layer in. I would layer as I go, and then I would get the video out as soon as I possibly could. But I don't just want to put a video out. That's fine. Some people do. That's absolutely fine. But I don't just want to put a video out with nothing. You know, just me talking. I don't want to do that. And then there were a few things that I was concerned about doing an actual live stream because it's a long live stream if you're live streaming during the Oscars. So that's why I did that. Those were the decisions that I made. But really, a ceremony that I was super happy with. It's the first time in a long, long time that I was happy with pretty much everything about it. I mean, I was rooting for, gosh, even when Spotlight won, I was thrilled, but I was still rooting for Mad Max, you know what I mean? I guess that's the same case this year, rooting for 1917 Parasite won. But other than that, every year, the winner has been, you know, either okay or it's fine. But I've always been rooting for another film or multiple other films. This is the first year that one, I liked or loved everything nominated for Best Picture, and two, I was really happy with the victor. So let's keep this trend going, Oscars. But I need you in the comments down below. What did you think of last night's ceremony? Were there any major shocks, surprises, anything you guys need to talk out in the comments down below? I would love for you to do that. This is your place and space to talk about what was the biggest thing for you last night. What were you most concerned about? What were you most happy with? And as I always say, hit that thumbs up button. It does help out this channel. It pushes videos like this and tells me that you want more things like it. And any recommendations you guys have, I appreciate it. You're truly the best. Appreciate y'all for watching. I'll be back in my normal studio next time you see me. And if you guys want to go to the Movie House podcast feed, we're going to have a follow-up. We're going to talk even more about the victors, talk even more about who won and who lost last night. You guys are truly the best. I'll see you soon.